Spoilers ahead, please.
Oh,
Spoilers
yes,
ahead.
big
spoilers.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast.
Yes, this one's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, it's the end of another Marvel show. Another Marvel show.
Actually, when was the last one?
You know, I was starting to think that, and I was like, I don't remember on the top. Was it Secret Invasion?
I think it might have been Secret Invasion.
Yikes. Yeah, I think it was.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And a very loose feeling Marvel show in terms of
Which honestly,
if you didn't know
was
anything
okay.
about any of the characters, you could tell them they wouldn't believe it was a Marvel show, I feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It had that vibe. But anyways, yeah, we'll be talking about
Agatha All Along.
Agatha All Along, which actually, honestly, was a really good
Better than I expected.
timed window, too. I
Yeah.
think it was a great show to watch just during the whole Halloween time.
Yeah, I mean, they released the last 2 episodes on the 30th. Which
Yes.
is nice, too, so.
And, yeah, I thought it was really fitting for the season, if you will.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good Halloween-feeling show. But, yeah, we'll dive right into this episode.
Yeah, so, I mean...
We won't delay.
Don't delay. You know, as Connor said, you know, it just finished up, so fall 2024 of Disney Plus is where it was streamed. 9 episodes. It was mystery, supernatural-esque.
Yeah.
I did that myself. I didn't
Historical, maybe?
Historical fiction, in a way.
In a way.
Your main characters are obviously Agatha All Along, the teen,
The teen.
Sharon Davis, Rio, Jen, and Alice. Also, before we continue, spoilers ahead, please.
Oh,
Spoilers
yes,
ahead.
big
spoilers.
spoiler
We should probably mention that.
Yeah, good call.
Anyways, to start off, Connor, what were your initial thoughts of this show?
Well, I knew absolutely nothing going into the show.
Mm-hmm.
I really blitzed WandaVision. Matt will know this because the only reason I watched WandaVision is because Matt basically made me watch WandaVision. Like, I had no choice. But I really can't recall much from WandaVision,
Okay.
to be honest. I remember more from Doctor Strange and stuff that was going on with Wanda from that as opposed to WandaVision. So, in all honesty, totally forgot that Agatha was even the character at the end of WandaVision. Obviously, I knew the kid. Once I kind of was putting those pieces together, I was like, okay, this is
Indirectly obvious.
yeah. I was like, this is Scarlet Witch's kid. Hilariously, I watched it with my girlfriend as kind of we'll watch this Halloween themed show.
Yeah.
She really liked it. She
Okay.
was really digging it, and she was actually pointing out stuff from WandaVision more so than myself. Where she was like,
Oh, no.
"Oh, she's like that's a character from the finale of WandaVision,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Is she? Oh yeah!" And then
Yeah.
obviously we're in the town,
Yeah,
right?
we're in
So I
Westview.
totally forgot about that. I knew where they were, but I forgot the names of
Yeah.
everything. Yes, I'm a bad geek. But honestly, we cranked out pretty well the whole show in 2 days, except for the last 2 episodes. And it was really good. I would say if they did a better recap of WandaVision at the beginning of the show, I feel like it might be the most approachable MCU show.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I feel like you give them what they need to know to be like, hey, this character's from this. If you maybe want to go watch that, you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Just know that this is this. These are who. And here you go, the show. And you can just watch it. And honestly, you could just pretend you don't even know. You don't need to know anything about the MCU at that point.
Yeah,
And
I would
it's
agree
just
with that.
and it's just the Easter eggs that would make it enjoyable for someone that does know stuff about the Marvel
extended
universe
MCU
in general,
and
right?
stuff, yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought the characters were good. I liked how unique a lot of the witches were. They weren't just all very
Generic.
stereotypical
cliche,
or
yeah.
all the same.
Yeah.
They're all very different, which was cool. Obviously, both in design,
Yes.
as personality, and in powers, which I thought was really cool. So, yeah, I think the only note I had was on the initial thoughts, and I think a lot of people will notice this, is the first episode felt so weird and overacted.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend pointed it out where she's like, it feels really forced. She's like, it's kind of like one of like an old cop show we're watching. Like it's really kind of eh. And then obviously it's on purpose because
every episode is individually based around a cliche trope.
Yeah,
right?
and obviously Agatha's stuck in Wanda's spell.
Kind of, yeah, like a PTSD-esque situation.
And she's created this
falsification.
Wanda and like false
realms,
worlds, that are going on.
Yeah.
But and once you learn that it's not real, it was brilliant. Because then it made the acting seem great. You're like, oh wow, it was spot on. It was really well done. I thought a lot of the acting was actually really
I don't have any overall
good
complaints for the acting.
Yeah, none of it felt super off. Sometimes I feel like in the Marvel shows we've gotten characters that feel
kind of
forced, flat, or just especially with also just higher like younger kids in general, just or if they're unknown actors, the roll of the die. But I felt like everyone was really really solid in the show. So, what about you? Did you enjoy it?
I mean, I didn't have high expectations going into the show.
Maybe that's what helped it.
Like, because I was like, you know what? It's just another Marvel show. It's a character A, I don't know too much about. B, I don't really care about.
Valid.
So I found it to be one of the more enjoyable Disney Plus shows. I think when I think of the Marvel shows, like She-Hulk was okay. Secret Invasion was okay. Like Ms. Marvel was good. Moon Knight was good.
I guess we liked Secret Invasion more than a lot of the people, it seemed like.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. But it still had issues. But this, like, I mean, you talk about episode 1, but my only takeaway is that episode 9 felt out of place.
I felt the ending was...
I also didn't know where episode 9 could go either.
Yeah, I felt the ending was a bit... I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending, because that definitely felt more cliche.
Sets up if...
There's season 2 or something. But it felt more cliche.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, the bad guy's now going to help the good guy. Yeah. I was like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, you can definitely feel the influence they took from WandaVision.
For sure, yeah.
Which is really fun. I mean, that first episode was supposed to be that cliche, like, early 2000s, 90 cop show.
Yep.
The one episode when they're in the big fancy house, that is, like, Real Housewives feel. One had, like, the 80s, like, horror movie feel, which was, like, heavily inspired by The Exorcist.
Yeah, it was good.
It was fun in that way, right?
Had a good amount of twists during the series as well.
Yeah,
More drops that you weren't
did not expect. Yeah. I mean, episode 6, when he finally, like, when he turns around and gets the 2 witches under mind control, fully out of left field. Did not expect that.
Yeah, and the lore drop for her son.
Yeah,
that was like
Nicholas Scratch.
I wasn't ready.
It's interesting because if you watch it back in like episode 9 kind of helps tell us the fact that the reason why she kept killing witches all those years is so Death couldn't take her son.
Yep,
and then when she failed, and then I was
the
like,
one
dang.
time she opted to not do it because her son asked her not to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then that just changed. It was
how depressing was that?
Like insane. That's why like episode 9 feels out of place, but also it doesn't.
I know,
but
it was a good lore drop.
Agreed.
And a lore that I felt like was going to be baited. I felt like you were kind of being teased about it, but we're never going to get it in this
I was worried that Nicholas Scratch was just going to be the guy who played Quicksilver from the other movies. Like I was like, I really hope they don't just make that her son.
No, yeah. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the evolution of the Witch's Road song. Where they're like, oh my gosh, that's just a song by that one lady.
Well, before that, she's humming it in the car in the first episode.
True, yeah.
And then you see it like, then they say it to get into the Witch's Road, and then it's like the one lady's mom, and
who
then
wrote a version of the song, which actually was to protect her daughter. And you're like, whoa, okay, that's deep. And then all of a sudden you learn that it's Agatha's son who actually originally came up with the whole.
It's just a whole.
He was a bard, basically, coming up with his own little song. It wasn't even originally about the Witch's Road, just like a windy road, and then turns into this song to unfortunately bait witches into dying. But
it is what it is,
But and I loved. I did kind of predict where I was like, I forget what episode it was. I was like the Witch's Road. I'm like, because remember how Agatha's the only one of the only witches that have completed the road or seen the road. I was like,
seems sketch.
And obviously, she seemed shook that there was a road.
Yeah, she's like, oh, this is actually happening.
I was like, it's obvious that she's never done the road, but I was like, but she has something to do with the road.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't know, man. It was
cool,
surprisingly good.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of bypasses some of our notes. So, like, music and OST, I thought the Witch's Road song was good and was an important part of the story.
All versions of it.
All versions of it. It did feel like a little repetitive after a while, but it still helped the story move forward.
Get stuck in your head, you know?
Yeah. The only cringe part when it comes to the music, in my opinion, is the end of episode 6 when it's revealed that he's, like, in the Wiccan costume and Billie Eilish comes on.
Yeah.
And the song is called, like, something like, You'll Like Me in the Crown or In My Crown or something like that. I'm like, that is cringe. Because obviously he's Billy and the song's sung by Billie Eilish. But so that we'll skip past cinematography. I mean, 'twas fine. Nothing crazy.
There was nothing that crazy stood
the one
out
shot
for cinematography.
that stood out for me was in episode 7, I think, when the one lady sacrifices herself and she spins the tarot card and the whole room gets spun upside down.
See, the effects in that episode were good.
Yeah.
I felt like the visual effects for a lot of it were kind of definitely TV show.
Oh yeah,
like,
definitely the
like
TV
some
show
of
budget.
some of like the powers looked really worse than Force Lightning level of like.
Yeah.
You were like, but yeah, I obviously like from a cinematography perspective, I didn't notice anything too insane. It's not something I'm always looking out for.
Yeah.
Personally, but didn't feel like there was anything too offensive.
No.
In terms of like, oh yeah, they didn't do a good job here. I felt like it was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, moving into set design and character design, I mean, we kind of touched on this, but
definitely a positive, a highlight.
Great character designs. I mean, my favorite was in the 80s one. The teen is wearing like a red shirt and he's got like a blue headband, which is a nod to Wiccan. That's when I knew. Like I had ideas.
I like the first house, the Housewives one.
Oh yeah.
Where they're all like super like posh. They got like the vest over top of the the collared shirt, and
there's some good foreshadowing that because like Mrs. Hart, Sharon Davis, she makes a joke which is like, oh, I would die for this kitchen, or I would die in this kitchen, and then she dies in the kitchen.
She was a fun comedic relief character for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed how annoying she was. I think that's the easiest way to put it. I thought the Witch's Road itself was really creepy but neat.
I really liked.
It was like horror Wizard of Oz-esque almost.
I liked the aspects of the road was deciding things for them, like if they wanted,
when they tried to turn,
if they
and
got
back
off
at
the
house.
road, or if they turned away. It was like, nope, there's only forward.
Mm-hmm.
You're all going where the road is telling you to go.
Death looked great.
Very unexpected as well.
I saw it in like a leak by accident, which made certain episodes more enjoyable and messed up.
Because you knew, yeah.
Well, in the episode of the Ouija board episode, okay, when it like spells out death and it pans to her, she's laughing hysterically while everyone else is freaking out, and then that's why she stays behind, right? And there's like throughout that episode specifically, anytime they talk about death, she's just like laughing and everyone's freaking out, and she thinks it's like a grand old time. And I was like, that's good. That's some good like subtleness.
Yeah, I was
is
not expecting
unsettling.
her to be death, but that was pretty epic. The only thing that made it weird for me from an MCU point, realizing it's the MCU, obviously, is that in Marvel, Death loves Deadpool.
Yeah.
Death also has a relationship with Thanos. Like,
well, Thanos has a relationship with Death. Yeah.
It's just that Death has never been explored as like the entity that has that importance with Thanos, with Deadpool. Mm-hmm. Like, it's never been explored for those characters. Obviously, it won't be for Thanos, and we
Deadpool, I won't get my
safe to say he won't either.
Yeah.
But in comics, it's so important to those characters.
Yeah.
So it was very weird to see Death in a relationship with a different character.
Yeah, that we weren't familiar with, yeah.
But it still worked. I still liked it, especially when it came to like the sun and stuff. You see that they're in a relationship, and we don't know for certain if Death had anything to do with helping in the creation, because it seems like Agatha pulled a Wanda to create her son. Yeah. It doesn't seem like there is a father to our knowledge. It does seem like it's more of a creation standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that too.
And I think I saw some people talking about like in their translations, like in their language, it meant like a
I did see some of that stuff, so yeah.
It does seem like there is no father. It is just created out of her own power. Could be involving Death. Don't know for sure.
Could be a different entity altogether.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's
But yeah, man, the death coming and Agatha being like, no, not yet, before she's even given birth.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Like, it was like, oh.
Well, it's cool too because before it's revealed that Wiccan is not Nicholas Scratch, when he gets like sick and he's about to die, she goes up to Rio and was like, not yet, like don't take him.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, well, why? What does she have to do with that? But honestly, once you watch the show, I would honestly say it has good replay value at least once.
Yeah, to pick up on stuff.
Not even the Easter eggs, but the proper foreshadowing in the show.
Yeah, it was enjoyable from built up, and there are little like hints around throughout the show for what is being told. That goes both for the reveal of who Teen is, the reveal of Agatha's son, the reveal of death. Like all of it's hinted at throughout, which is really cool. And even Agatha being the one to lock up the one witch's powers.
Yeah.
That's also...
I didn't expect that.
But I'm sure that's also hinted at through the series because Agatha is super sus every time it gets mentioned. It's brought up. Like, she knows. She knows something's going down.
Yeah. The one thing that did get my hopes up just for a split second, then I was like, no, they can't do it, is in the second last episode when they come out of the wall and it's all like white and they're in like that little room for the final trial. For some reason, my first thought was, are they in the X-Mansion right now?
Yeah.
Like, I got my hopes up just for a second. I was like, no, they wouldn't do that. But it was all right. I'm intrigued to see if this will spawn anything new for the MCU, because this is a different part of the MCU, like the dark, mystic, horror.
Yeah, like the witches and element of...
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is in the comics in this. Like, Doctor Strange is obviously the Sorcerer Supreme, but currently in the comic books, he's not anymore. I'm pretty sure it's Doctor Doom, which is weird.
Not Doctor Doom. He's always doing everything.
But there's like the Strange Academy, and Scarlet Witch is connected to it, and the whole linear line of the Scarlet Witches.
It would be cool to see that aspect of Doctor Doom's family be explored now that we know.
Yeah, because he's a
right?
witch. Yeah. Doctor Doom in the comics, his mother was a witch.
Yeah. So it'd be cool if that gets explored.
That would be amazing if she was part of like maybe like
we now know that there is Doctor Doom.
Exactly. We do know he's coming.
We don't know how exactly,
but
he will be or who he will be.
And
we know who's acting him, but like playing the role of him, but we don't know what version of him.
The witch that ends up surviving at the end that gets her powers back.
Yeah,
she's big in the comics too, but I'm curious if they're gonna make. So she has connections to what's called Midnight Suns.
Okay. Which
is basically Marvel's Justice League Dark equivalent. So it's like Blade, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, X-23, like that kind of group. Man-Thing's in it, I think. But she has a connection to Midnight Suns. She has a connection to Man-Thing. And she's in the comics, I'm 95% sure she's also Johnny Blaze's cousin.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So if they decide to bring Johnny Blaze into it, because we have had Ghost Rider in the expanded MCU.
Yes.
There's always up for interpretation of how canon Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really is. And I don't fully understand that, because I never watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think in Season 4 they brought in Ghost Rider for a little bit. So if someone knows, let us know in the comments.
For sure.
Or I'm just spitballing things.
Yeah, other cool things that I liked about the series, like we mentioned, we had the designs, the characters, the storytelling in general, a lot of cool lore drops, unexpected lore drops, some history you weren't expecting to get. The background about the Witch's Road was very epic to be revealed. Negatives, honestly, like they're not that many. I think maybe for me the largest dislike is kind of the way the ending ends up with. Yeah. It was funny seeing Agatha as a ghost.
It fit the vibe of the show, yeah. But I didn't like it.
That was pretty funny, and like the way she's like acting and stuff is great. But her being like, I'm going to be like your spirit guide.
And you're like, no.
It's like, what?
Please don't, actually.
What?
Was there a post-credit scene?
That, actually, I cannot say for sure.
I can't remember. I don't think there was. I'm going to pull it up quick.
But, yeah, I would be down for a season 2 to see kind of where it goes. I did find that it was kind of odd that Death is like, oh, Agatha, I've already let you, break the rules or whatever for so long. And it's either you get that boy to come to me because he's unnatural and he's trying to get his brother, which is unnatural and like against the rules or whatever. But isn't Death still gonna go after him? Like he's still technically,
yeah. I mean,
and he's trying to find his brother, which means his brother will have to be also in another
type of sacrifice. Yeah.
So
I think it's definitely up to interpretation. I think they've set it up where I don't know if they'll get like the season 2 will be called Agatha All Along, or if this is their back door to finally do Young Avengers.
Oh, I see. So you think, I guess they could.
Well, they have the team now. So you have Wiccan from Agatha All Along.
We have,
Ms. Marvel, who's also in a Disney Plus show. And if She-Hulk introduced Scar, like Hulkling, who was also part of the Young Avengers.
Hawkeye, we've seen.
Kate Bishop's in Disney Plus as well. So
you think that they'll go like TV show route with the...
I think so. I think that makes the most sense. Because they're all just in, like, outside of Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is made it into the movies.
She's correct.
But I'm saying, like, we have the potential to do that, where we have the most of the Young Avengers. We've seen other ones in the MCU, like Ant-Man's daughter. She's in the Young Avengers at some point.
Okay, yeah, so maybe we get...
They join together to go find Tommy or something.
We get a Defenders-esque, but now with the Young
Avengers, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I think...
Not everything has to be a movie is the other thing.
You know?
And we'll be getting plenty. We'll stay
tuned for that. We'll be discussing
There'll be a lot of Marvel stuff coming.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's not overall negatives. I think the interesting concept of Billy creating the Witch's Road.
How just like his mother, who he doesn't like to consider his mother because he considers what's his face, like the kid that he took's body's mother, his mother.
Kind of. Well, because he's trying to convince himself
that he's not.
Like he's like, this is my family, but in reality, he is still Billy. To be honest, the weirdest thing about this is the fact that he coincidentally went into a body that had the exact same name. Can we just discuss this for a second?
Yeah, that was
so
a little bit
Billy
odd.
dies, and his spirit goes into another boy, also named Billy.
It was meant to be.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. I don't. Also, it's clear as someone who's watched a few isekai, or as Matt likes to say, isekai.
Isekai.
There was a comment on a recent.
Oh, yeah.
that made fun of you for that. It's not uncommon to see the whole, this character has now ended up in what was once a dying or now dead character.
Yeah.
That happens actually in a few different isekai scenarios where they'd obviously die in our world and they end up in a child who just died instead of like the full rebirth. They're just like, I'm now the personality of this once child, unfortunately, who passed. That's actually from one of these guys I want you to watch, which is Bookworm. That's
right, yes.
That's actually how the main character ends up in a frail girl's body who has unfortunately already passed, and she kind of some of the family members do recognize where they're like, "You're not like my sister.
Yeah.
Who are you?" You know, some people kind of pick up on it, but I do think that I don't mind that trope. I think it's okay.
That's fair. Do you have a favorite episode from Agatha All Along?
Honestly, I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I didn't care too much for most of the trials. Like,
yeah,
I felt like they were okay, but I didn't find too many of them that stood out.
Okay.
Let me just pull up an episode list just to make sure I don't.
I'm gonna take a guess for you,
one.
and it's either episode 6 or episode 8. That's my guess. Episode 8 was the actual finale, not the prequel episode, kind of.
I think it is just Agatha's backstory.
The last episode?
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
I think I really like, obviously, Agatha's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's unforgivably bad. But, wow, did they ever, like, play with your emotions? And I anticipated that all of those rumors about her, like, selling her son and stuff, I knew, like, his soul so she could get more power. I knew that those definitely were, in the way Agatha reacted to them, it was obvious that was not what happened.
Quite the case, yeah.
It was definitely a different scenario that happened. But wow, what a
twist.
Yeah, what a twist. Just the amount of different lore elements of it, right? We got what happened to her son. We got her relationship with death. We got why she kills witches. We got the birth of the road, how the song came to be, and what the road truly is. And I was like, holy, like, massive lore dump.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel forced. That was the best part.
Yeah, it felt natural.
Sometimes, like, when people, especially in some, like, shonen manga and stuff, they're like, oh, like, bam, and we're really shoving this is lore.
Yeah, this is the way it should be.
This is what happened. This is how it's happening.
Yeah.
Everything felt really smooth for her backstory. And I really enjoyed going through her through the different ages of, like, when witches were being hunted and, like, working her way through time. I thought that was really cool. I also liked in earlier episodes when they show pictures of Agatha in the past, kind of similar to is it Wonder Woman, where they show, like, Wonder Woman
throughout the years, basically,
like stuff like that. I always like that the use of that imagery in TV shows and movies, where, like, when characters are more immortal or live for an extremely long time.
Yeah,
I kind of like when they're like, this is what they looked like in this age
versus this era and this and that. Yeah,
it's just a cool detail. Also, the see, obviously that goes into, like, costume design, seeing some good effort into making that historically accurate and feel like the setting is right. So, and obviously as people that play D&D and different RPGs, it was cool to see kind of that adventurer feel of them, even though it was a much darker path, if you will.
But also a group of people that all have different quirks and abilities.
Yeah, and, like, how she used her son in really awful ways.
It's classic.
Like, oh, he's a bard. He's singing for them. Yeah. And, oh, man. Just, he knew, but he wasn't bad.
No.
Like, he was like, hey, why do we have to kill witches? And she never told him.
Yeah.
I'm sure if she told him, he'd be like, no, just let me die.
Yeah, sorry, Mom. I think for me, episode 6, I think it is, and that's, like, the episode of how Wiccan came to be.
Yep.
Like, I didn't expect it for him to, like, actually cross paths with all of the witches that were on the trial. I thought that was really neat.
Yes.
To be fair, it was really weird that there was a tarot card reading at a bar mitzvah.
I also thought that the massive tarot card reading at the bar mitzvah was
very random, I find. But interesting. I think it's the creator of Wiccan is a Jewish gay man.
Okay.
And so, because Wiccan is, like, that was the whole thing, right? Yeah. Bar mitzvah and him being gay. So I think that's really interesting. Fun fact. But I thought that episode was really cool. Like, the fact that he had the tarot card reading, and then he saw her advertisements online, and then he got in the car accident. Who shows up? You know what I mean? Like, it was very, like,
her episode was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the jumping through the past and then the present and the future. Like,
I had to watch it. Like, I had to stop, rewind a little bit to fully understand it.
Makes you also understand why she was a bit
cuckoo.
Because literally she says, like, oh, I'm, like, living in different times.
Which is just whack.
It's, like, actually, like, very, like, you can, like, you can't really comprehend how insane that would be for someone to actually make sense of what's happening to them in the present moment.
Which is also happening at a different time.
Exactly.
At the exact same time.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Insane.
Like, no wonder. She was a little off. But also I was not expecting her to be the one to set the, what was it called?
Sigil.
Yeah, the sigil.
I didn't expect that either. So that was very interesting.
Because, yeah, I was really curious when, like,
I was really curious who was going to be.
When he was like, and you're like, I was like, oh.
Interesting.
Okay, so obviously we're not supposed to know who he is. But also, what the F? I was like, is this only for Agatha? And then obviously we learned that it's an actual thing. When the whole witch is pulled together, all of them are like,
a sigil! Oh my gosh!
What's happening?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Insane.
It was pretty funny. A lot of cool setup, a lot of cool little foreshadowings and different stories and elements of how all these characters ended up being together. I thought it was really,
and I think,
written decently well.
I think it has the potential to be important to the overall MCU if it's done properly.
I was going to ask that. Like, what do you think? So obviously you think Young Avengers is one thing that has some potential implications.
Yeah, this has potential for Young Avengers. This is also part 2 of 3 of the story that they're making right now. So we had WandaVision. Yep. We have Agatha All Along, and then there's a show that's getting shot next summer, which will be on 2026, called Vision Quest. And that's going to be about the White Vision that was at the end of WandaVision.
Yes.
And it's rumored that Billy will be in there.
Okay.
So they're creating this mini trilogy to kind of connect things.
So, I mean, why not?
Again, I think this show has potential to be important to the overall MCU if it's done correctly. Because I feel like after, and we've discussed this a little bit on the podcast in the past, where post, like, Endgame, you had the third Spider-Man movie, or the second and third, whatever, and that was kind of like the end of the overall arching story.
Yeah.
And now it feels like we're going in like 5 different directions.
I was just saying, the MCU is so complicated now.
We have the multiverse. We have these ancient items for Shang-Chi and technically Captain Marvel.
And now we're introducing the whole witches, like, magic element.
The magic element after, with Doctor Strange 2 and stuff, and introducing the multiverse with that.
So we got a lot going on.
And then I feel like I'm missing one. Well, the Thunderbolts, and making like this Dark Avengers team on top of it. Because now you're putting in place the Dark Avengers, because you have like the U.S. agent, and you have basically the Thunderbolts is essentially the Dark Avengers, because you can connect each one of them to the core Avengers.
Yeah, they have like a mirroring.
Yeah. So...
yeah.
It just feels like there's a lot going on. And I remember...
And the other thing is, unfortunately, obviously, the direction was going to one villain.
But things happen. So now here's Fantastic Four. The X-Men have been foreshadowed. Doctor Doom's coming back. So
how
know.
How is the train getting put back on the tracks?
Exactly.
Is what we're hopefully going to figure out in 2025.
There's a lot.
There's a lot that has to be guided. Are they going to do it through the storytelling within these movies? Are they going to be relying on post-credit scenes? I feel like that's a little bit weak, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they've been there, done that. I think, for me, if they keep... It's not that I want to keep the Disney Plus shows separate from the movies.
I don't think they should be, but
I think it should be more overlapping than The Defenders was, for example.
I feel like that's what made this show great, was that it's so approachable for someone who's hasn't seen everything in the MCU, right? And I feel like for Disney Plus, that's important for MCU shows as well, to have that element of it where you don't feel like you need to be like, I've seen all the phases, I've seen all the shows, I can actually watch this.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that for Agatha All Along, you just need to watch WandaVision and maybe Doctor Strange 2. And I say maybe because you just need to know that Wanda died.
Yeah. But that's even covered, like,
That's kind of talked about at the beginning,
multiple times.
But
like Secret Invasion, you need to, if you haven't seen
the core of the MCU,
including every post-credit scene of
you're not gonna know.
Yeah, you can't really follow the show
It's good though, because you look at some of the Disney Plus shows like Secret Invasion or Falcon Winter Soldier, and you need to know the entirety. But if you watch Moon Knight, you don't really got to know anything. And this kind of falls into that category where you just want something extra. You want to give it a watch. You don't really need to know.
Rewatch this every Halloween and feel nice.
Exactly.
Cool.
Before we wrap up, I mean, to me, if you enjoyed WandaVision, you'll probably enjoy this as well. It's just a spookier WandaVision.
Yeah, for sure. That's a pretty easy recommendation. I would recommend watching it whether you watch WandaVision or not. Honestly, I would just watch a quick YouTube video or recap of WandaVision, and you're good to go.
Easy peasy.
Hopefully, Marvel shows continue to be this quality, because I felt like it was one of the better ones.
I was genuinely shocked. It kind of makes me want to do a tier list.
Yeah, we'll probably end up doing one for sure.
But maybe later on.
But I also feel like maybe us going into it not expecting much has helped it immensely.
Potentially,
in our feelings. But
I mean, you can make
you never know. Maybe it is what it is.
Exactly. Before we finish up, a little couple random Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, I might give them away. What are the Easter eggs?
I mean, there's a lot through every episode. I mean, the final mention of Mephisto.
Yes.
People were losing it. Because obviously Mephisto is kind of how Wiccan and Speed get created in the comics. Mephisto's been around for Spider-Man stories, Daredevil stories, Ghost Rider, the devil, right? Basically, yeah. So that's big news. She's wearing, in I think it's in episode 1 or episode 6, whatever one. She's wearing like a Boner family reunion T-shirt because that's Ralph Boner's family. In the first episode, when Wiccan is in the closet, you see a stack of Blu-rays, and then when he meets up with Ralph in the garage or in the parking garage, he's like, I left all my Blu-rays there. So that's really just a random one. More important ones would be fun fact from the comic books, I guess. The Salem 7 is made up of Nicholas Scratch's children.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of interesting. And then in episode 7, when the room gets slipped around and all the swords and stuff fall, there's only 5 of the 7 Salem that are in that shot.
So there's
it's rumored that there's still 2 out there, which then could potentially add some lore for the next story bit.
Yeah, whatever they do. All right, very cool. Very cool.
Those are like 2 of the biggest ones that I could kind of find. But yeah, in conclusion, I mean, better than expected. I was shocked.
Relatively short, so it's very easy to crank out.
No episode really dragged on.
Could be good for a couple watch because, like we said, you don't really need to be invested in the MCU.
Yeah. My biggest pet peeve, and this is just most Star Wars, Marvel, Disney Plus shows, is the 8 minutes of credits at the end.
Yeah, very long credit scenes. But hey, as someone who works in film, you gotta appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. But it's like the fancy credits for like a minute and a half, and then the regular credits, and then the 9 dubbings. Yeah,
it's like a movie. But yeah, just a couple more housekeeping items before we close out. Nerdy Misfit Gaming. We have a gaming channel. Tune in every Tuesday for Troy's stream. T-Roy Jenkins. Streaming every Tuesday, and look forward to content that comes out on that channel if you're into gaming. Eddie will also be streaming on that channel. Has yet to find a specific day that
he's working on it. He's working on it.
That he'll lock in. But we do have 2 wonderful people on the channel. We're going to be having Troy on a podcast sometime this month, I'm sure, to introduce you guys to him. But he's already streaming. He's streaming a TCG Shop Simulator. So
give her a watch.
It's an addicting game. Not gonna
lie. It looks
lie.
great. You've sent me a few things and be like, yo, I pulled this card. I pulled this card. I was like,
I'm not gonna lie. I've been cranking out a lot of that game.
Bring it on to Mac, somebody, please.
Yeah. But definitely check out Troy and Eddie on the Nerdy Misfit Gaming channel. And, of course, subscribe to the main Nerdy Misfits.
That's where we are.
Every Wednesday, the podcast. And, honestly, we're trying to post a little bit more, you know. So, we're doing some other things, look forward to more stuff. That's all I'm saying. And Discord down below. Also, join us for Anime of the Month. I totally forgot what the Anime of the Month is. You'll have to check for yourself by joining our Discord. Other than that, I think we're good to close.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.